to Brokenness Meets Grace. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. As always, we're never alone. Today we are blessed to have two special guests in the house. So we got two today. So happy with that. I'm going to allow the guests to introduce themselves. Friends of ours from Alberton, a wonderful mom and son. Yay!
My name is Tanya, and I come from Alberton, but have just recently moved there. I come from Overcomers, which is a ministry in Paris. I've been there for 2 years. I actually had a 3-year covenant with God, and the Lord actually cut it short and brought me back to Joburg.
Awesome.
Hi there, my name is Caleb. I'm 24 years old. I come from Alberton. Also 2 years in ministry at Overcomers, and also been brought back to Joburg to serve the side.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming along, guys. We really appreciate it. It's so nice to have more people take part in these conversations. And we're really excited for today's topic because it's a topic that we feel very strongly about, because it's one that so many people can relate to. And that is broken homes. So broken homes from the perspective of children who grew up from a broken home and how it's impacted their lives. So that's today's topic. I think most Christians preach from a high level down.
Yes.
We're always talking down to people. Repent, come to the good side. And people are not. You can't relate to somebody who's far removed from you. You can't relate to somebody who cannot relate to your brokenness. So God will allow you to continue to still have elements of that to make you relatable, like you said about testimony.
Yes.
And that's what He's going to use it for ultimately.
The most difficult person a person can go through is a person that has never gone through. Like if I've had severe anxiety now and I'm battling, and you come to me and you've never dealt with it, it immediately causes a border thing of how can you try and tell me to come to God when you haven't felt what I feel like?
Exactly.
And that's what God uses people like us, people with disability, people with anxiety, people with brokenness. God uses us as His puzzle piece.
From you, Caleb, are two things that I found identity related, in relation to me and my experience with coming from a broken home. The first was with rejection, and with you mentioned that it was about always seeking reassurance.
There we go.
Right, always seeking reassurance. For me, it was similar, except with our father, just a quick backstory, with our father, when our parents divorced, he had a child with another lady while my mom and him were still married. And when they divorced, obviously my mom had full custody of us and things like that. But he was always more of a father to his other children than us. It always felt that way. It always felt that he was there for his other children more than he was for us. And please understand that this is not a session we're going to be bashing our parents or anything like that. We're just trying to explain or give perspective, or give context rather, to where we are and how we got here. So the impression, rather than put it that way, the impression that we received was that he was more of a father to the other children than he was to us. And we sort of I grew up with a little bit of that resentment. Like he was a prominent figure and he would work in a program that involved orphans and adopted children, and he was very involved in that stuff. And it was always this constant reminder that how can you be so much to so many children and you're not that to us, So the rejection seed was planted there because then it meant something is wrong with you. Why would he be okay and be there for other children, but he's never there for you? So automatically it became a thing of, no, you're the problem. So that's the seed that was planted in my head. And the first thing that developed with me was this mentality that said, for you to be shown that you are loved, you must always be chosen. So I developed this thing where the only way you can prove you love me is to choose me. Choose me about everything, choose me first, choose me. And I took it into every relationship I had, I took it into friendships, I took it into even familial relationships. It was this understated condition of being a part of my life. I will accept you into my fold if you always choose me. You know, that's how I know that I'm loved by you. That's how you prove to me that I value, choose me, you know. And I remember I was such a competitive child when I was young also. Like at school, I always had to do well because I always had to be chosen, you know. And I realize that now, and that's also had an impact, I think, in my marriage as well, because I expected my ex-husband at the time to always prioritize me above everything and everyone, you know. I didn't say it verbally, but when I didn't receive, people are not going to choose you all the time. Like, and also to the degree that you want them to, you know. You can say, I'm showing you I love you, but in my mind, love for me is you putting everything on the line for me. You will never be able to give me that, and automatically I'm going to assume you don't love me enough. And I think because of the broken home and because of that identity that I formed, I took that into my marriage as well, and it obviously added more pressure onto the marriage because I was expecting this person to constantly put me first, you know. So that's the one thing that I think I developed as an identity trait over the years, and God is helping me see it and recognize it and work on it and understand rather that yes, we want to be chosen, but the only one that can ever choose you, that has chosen you, that will always choose you is Christ. You know, people will never be able to give you that feeling of being completely chosen because they are incomplete in themselves. You know, so I'm slowly coming into that knowledge and that understanding, and my relationship with Christ is developing in such a way that I am starting to learn that wholeness or acceptance, full acceptance, starts with Him first before I can accept Him anybody. And the second thing that you mentioned that really stood out for me, and I think we all mentioned it in a way, in terms of this identity that it creates, is seeing God as a father versus seeing God as a dad. I think because a lot of our brokenness is rooted along the fact that a father figure was not present, you know, or we needed a father, you know. It comes down to creation, you know. God is the ultimate father, and if we don't have Him, we'll always be lacking. It doesn't matter what we have, right? And I think what happens in a broken home, because in most cases it's a father that leaves, or a father, you know, children always need to be with their mothers. Children develop a need for a father, and in women's cases, we find that in other men. You know, we want to look for a father figure, even in the relationships that we end up having, to fill that void. But the problem is, when you come to meet Christ, and you come to know God, you are then also taught through religion that God is a father, but also from this up, you know, not this dad perspective. Like, we develop an understanding of God as a disciplinarian, you know, He's a father, you must come correct, you know, He will punish you when you're not doing right, you must fear Him, you know, you must make sure that you walk straight, you know, He's a father, you know, He created you, you know that you're in relationship with Him in a way, but you never really see Him as a dad. And I think that pains Him, because I think that's what He wants more than anything, is for His children to see Him as a dad. And I think if we got to the place where we really understood that before He's a father, He's a dad, you know, like He loves us, He wants to embrace us, perfect or not perfect, you know, He wants to take us in and just give us that thing that we will always be searching for until we find in Him. So those are the two identity traits that I developed and that I really came to see play out in my life, is that it didn't matter who chose me, it was never enough, you know. And also, I always sought a dad, you know, I always was looking for a dad, you know. Even when I found God, I found Him as a father, and I'm still only discovering Him as a dad now in my walk with Him daily. So yeah, for me, those were the two things that stood out in terms of identity. I think we've touched on this a little bit, but briefly, let's talk about how God used, you know, your experience with coming from a broken home to glorify Him. You know, Tanya, for you, what was it? What do you think He can take from your experience with a broken home and use for His glory?
Honestly, at this point in time, I can't give an honest answer. Because through all of this, I'm kind of lost. I'm kind of trying to figure out why it all happened, what happened, and where I am right now. But I think from a perspective of growing up in a broken home and everything that I've ever had to go through, I've always become, or I have become, a person who wants to protect those kind of children who I was. So my biggest dream, my biggest vision was to open up a safe house to take care of children who were broken, children who were abused, children that were rejected by parents. Right now, I don't know what God's plans are for my life. Right now, I'm living day by day, healing from everything I've been through for the last 3 years. But the one thing I take away from, or I take from everything, where I give God the glory, is the fact that when every single one of them have hurt me, when every single one of them betrayed me, rejected me, He was waiting there all along. He was waiting there all along. And I realized that without Him, I probably wouldn't even be able to be sitting here right now. I wouldn't be able to be talking to anybody. You know, I just am at a place now, like I said, I've always been a worshiper. But I'm in that point now where I need worship. I need that alone time with Him. I think it was last year we had a group of American pastors come to the ministry, and there were 4 of them, and they all prophesied over everybody that was on the land. And out of all the prophecies, or out of every time that somebody prophesied over me, I just didn't seem to get what I needed. I don't want prophecies, you know, because I seem to, you know, I just want God to say, your next instruction is this, and I want you to do this, and you're doing well, and nothing, I always get nothing out of those prophecies. And then this one pastor, Pastor Lacey, she prophesied and she told me about this golden track that she sees me on. But she says that God is saying, you're always asking, what about this, and what about this, and what about that, and what about this? And God's saying, shh, what about me? So I think I'm in that point right now, is, what about me? Not me, but God saying, what about me? So now is my time where I want to be still, where I want to be quiet, where I just want to be in His presence. I just want to learn to have that relationship with Him. I think for the last 3 years, I've been saved for 4 years now, along with Him. But when you're saved, I was ready to save, but when you're saved and you're trying to survive a marriage that is failing, and you have all these kids, and you're trying to open up a safe house, and you're working for ministry who's consuming so much of your time, where does God fit in with that? You know, so I've tried to multi-manage my life. A little bit of me here, a little bit of me there, but it just never worked out like that. So now it's just me and Jesus.
That is good. Sure. That is, I think at some point, all of us need to come to it. Like, we need to get to the end of ourselves to find Him, and actually like dedicate ourselves to just reconnecting with Him, because that's where all the answers are found.
I think I'm just so tired of asking, where do I go? What am I doing? What, like, Lord, who am I? Like, now I'm just in a season of it's not about you. And I literally have been selfish, because I've made it about me for the last 3 years. 2 years in ministry and 3 years in my marriage, and it's all about me, you know. It's not about me anymore. It's now about Him.
Sure. Powerful, and I think totally relate to that. I think that's where I am as well. Just at a place where there's a lot of work that needs to be done. A lot of work that needs to be done. And I cannot expect that He can do that work without me still. So, just be Caleb, for you, what has God done with your brokenness?
What He's still doing, meaning. So I'm also at a point in my life where I was born again. I was very on fire. I was praying for each single person in every single shop I was at. I was prophesying to people, I was jumping all around, and then I went into ministry. And I will be honest, over live stream, I got burnt out. I got burnt out. Ministry consumed a lot of me, and almost all of me basically. And I'm just at a point now where I've been in ministry for about 2 years, and I've come out of ministry now full time. And obviously going into ministry I had a total different perspective of how ministry should be and how everything is. And when I went there, it wasn't that way. So there was a lot of questions on my heart. There was, I just kept learning more and more and more about God, and that God isn't just a name. It's just not a name God, that you worship. There's so much more to God, and there's so much more God can do and reveal, and He's more than capable of anything. But basically, I'm just at a point now where I'm letting God just take me wherever. Like today, it wasn't planned today. The anxiety thing I spoke to you about now wasn't planned. I'm just letting God do what He needs to do. Because I think so many people fight that, they fight against God, thinking they're doing things for God. God wants you just to be free so that it can flow through you like a running river, but you want to plan your own things. You want to plan what you're going to speak about. You want to plan where you want to go. You want to plan where... I just learned to just allow God to flow, and through that, God will heal your brokenness. I mean, God cannot flow through something and not heal. He's pure water. So, I mean, think of it as a dirty pipe, and you just keep throwing clean water through clean water. Eventually, that clean water is just going to take all that rubbish out. Same with us. The more God flows through us, the more it cleans us. And that's just what I'm allowing at the moment. This is the first time actually in like a few months that I'm like, in a way, like speaking or ministering or fellowshipping with people. I've been really quiet lately after ministry. I've just been figuring out, or just being like, God, do what we need to do. I know that you will bring me back, and you will build me up again, and you will show me the right ways and what to do and what not. At the moment I'm just like the book of Psalms, be still and know that I am God.
Best place to be.
Best place to be.
And you, Shishi?
I think I'm at a place of acceptance, because like everyone in this room, my experience with Christ was so radical. We experienced God in 2020, so that's what, 2 odd years?
2 years, a couple of months.
Feels like 100, but yeah.
Feels like that.
It's been a whirlwind really, and it's been like, foundation, ministry. It's been a lot, and I can relate to a burnout as well, because you're thinking you need to always show up and you need to do, because you are just so consumed with showing up for Christ, So it's been a whirlwind, and I think in the midst of all of that, I haven't actually been in a place where I accept myself, I accept my flaws, I accept my calling even, I'm just going and going and going and going and going, and there isn't a lot of time for stillness for me to actually face certain things, and then when they do come out, they kind of knock me over because I haven't addressed them, so I think I'm trying to juggle showing up, because I have to show up, I have to do the work that is presented to me in each moment, but I still need to find the time to kind of accept who God has called me to be, and the only way to do it is to spend time with them and to just get away and to, figure out all the ugly and to dig deep and to search and to bring that to the forelight. As it's not nice to address certain things, especially because we often think when we are saved, we are miraculously healed and we're perfect, and there's nothing we need to address anymore, and we're just going on this Christian train and it's all merry-go-lucky. But it's actually as you go in deeper that you notice just how flawed and messed up you are, and all of those things are like technicolor and coming to the forefront, and it's just so hard to deal with that, because you're trying to be righteous and you're trying to portray righteousness to people, but you're not. So I think the acceptance part of me is just my journey with God for the last 6 months. I'm learning to understand that this is who I am. I fought my calling for a very long time because just generally of who I am in terms of self-esteem. But I'm coming into it slowly. It's like He coaxes me little by little. And like you said, He's a patient God, He's a patient Father. He doesn't overwhelm you. He allows you to step into everything that you want to just step into bit by bit. So you fully embrace it, and it doesn't overwhelm you. So I'm definitely trying to balance. I don't want to burn out. And sometimes it feels like I am, but at the same time, I'm trying to figure myself out in my journey with God. And it looks different, it has to look different, It's so easy for us to always compare, and to compete with one another, but we can't be the same. It wouldn't work if it did. It would look that way. So I'm trying to also just come into my own and accept the package that I'm in. For some reason, He chose me to do what He wants me to do. I don't know why. He could have chosen so many other people, honestly. Every day I'm like, why me? Why me? But I have to show up, and I do it with, I pray anyway. I don't always often get it right, but I pray that I'm always able to be obedient, and just for the Spirit when He speaks. So yeah.
Yeah, wow, I think what we're all getting at is that from our childhood of brokenness and coming from a broken home, we stepped into salvation. We found Christ, and He is rebuilding the homes for us. He's creating a new home for us now. A new form of wholeness in each of us individually and in our families. He is making us understand what wholeness looks like now. We have a history of brokenness. We have a history of things falling apart. But in Him we found wholeness. But it's beautiful because, like you all said, in finding that wholeness, He's also bringing to the surface the things that are actually going to make this foundation unstable if He does not address them. Right? So He brings them up one at a time. Often I'm just like, okay, I see this, He's helped me come to this, and He's helping me fix it. I'm good. And then before you know it, bam, He makes you realize something else. Another flaw comes to the surface, and you're just like, but I thought I was okay. I thought you fixed me and stuff. And I think the reason He does that is because the foundation that we all had in our childhood was so flawed. It was a flawed foundation because it was a foundation that was as a result of two flawed people coming together. The foundation He wants to develop with us and Him has to be secure and so stable that even if it means breaking us before putting us on that foundation, He will do it. Because He cannot afford to have us on a stilted foundation. With Him, it's solid. And if it means making us right before putting us on that foundation, He'll have to do that, And that's just what the walk with Christ is daily. It's just using our stuff, bringing it up to the surface so that He cleans it. Somebody once said that it's almost like He just goads you. Like He's always prodding at you. Always bringing things out that you thought were either dealt with or hidden. And He always brings them up to the surface. But I'm learning to realize that that's because He's trying to create a new wholeness, a wholeness that is not pretentious, it's not fake. It doesn't create a facade of who you are when you're not really that person. With Him, He wants it all out, vulnerability, tears, messed up, all of it for the world to see, so that He can take the glory when He faces it.
But have you noticed how it's taken, we're all different ages, but it's taken 20, 30, 40 years of breaking.
To get to this point, it's insane.
You can't expect 40 years of breaking to be fixed overnight.
It's true. Absolutely. But the beauty is that we're trying. And the beauty is that we recognize that He's at work. And of course, He says He will not stop until He's completed the work in us. So we have to go in and trust and believe that that's just what He's doing. But yeah, this was an amazing session. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
We will definitely have you again. Definitely. It may be broken, but it's in the hands of the potter. Bye guys.
Bye.
Catch you next time.